I hope your new year is off to a good start. I am certainly encouraged. I'm here in my family living room. I'll be going back to Florida tomorrow, January 5th, to our Priest for Life headquarters. But yesterday was the funeral for my dad. You see a picture of him and my mom and me here in the background behind the Christmas tree. And thank you for all your outpouring of support and prayers and solidarity. It's been a great encouragement. You know, we had 5 priests on the altar at the Mass, including our Associate Director, Father Dennis Wild, Father Peter West from the Archdiocese of Newark, who served full-time with us for many years, Father Giacomo Capoverde from the Diocese of Providence, Rhode Island, who has served with us for full-time for a number of years as well, Father Dave Dybel, our canonical consultant, the pastor of the parish, Father Patrick Angelucci. Gratitude to all these priests and to so many pro-life leaders and activists, together, of course, with relatives and friends who were there and made the Mass truly a celebration of faith and of life. So thank you very much. I know that the prayers and good wishes are continuing to come in, and they really are a support and an encouragement to me and the whole family. I see my parents there. There's also my brother Joe. He's the other part of that picture there. We're all grateful to you. Now, today there's a lot of things going on. I wanted to comment on a few items. First of all, of course, if you're following the events in Washington, you see that the House Republicans are involved in the first act that they have to undertake, the election of the Speaker of the House. And they had 3 votes yesterday. Now, by the time you see this video, more will have developed that we're not aware of right now. I'm talking to you on the morning of January 4th. But they had 3 votes and didn't yet agree unanimously, didn't yet agree by the majority votes needed to choose a speaker. Listen, that's not a sign that there's disarray. That's not dysfunction. I think that is function. In other words, are these members free to vote for who they think is best for that position or not? Maybe what's happening here is that there's a new discovery of the independence that each of these members does have to vote according to their conscience. Maybe there's a deeper awareness here that instead of always following what is presumed to be the outcome or what is the party line on something, that we, and here I'm not expressing any preference for or against any candidate. What I'm saying is that maybe they're reading the views of their constituents and saying, we want some change. So whether it takes 1 vote, 3 votes, 10 votes, that's not a sign of dysfunction. That's a sign of the process working itself out. It will work itself out. And I'm confident that the party will move forward united in its agenda, including the pro-life votes that I've already talked to you about that are going to occur very soon after the new speaker has been put in place. Let's have patience with the process. Let's listen to the arguments on both sides, and let's allow those whom we elect to vote in a way that they believe is right and that they believe represents what their constituents want. Okay, that's one thing. Abortion. What should burden us each day, no matter what things are going on in our lives, no matter what problems or obstacles we face, no matter what losses we experience, abortion needs to be the number one concern that we have each day. It needs to be the biggest burden on our hearts, that babies growing in the womb in their first months of existence are being dismembered and decapitated legally every day by the thousands in America. This has to burden us. This has to bother us. You know, Cardinal O'Connor, John O'Connor, who was Archbishop of New York, ordained me back in 1988 and gave me permission in 1993 to devote my life and ministry full-time to ending abortion. And that remains my commitment. It's an irrevocable commitment. And I've said that from day one. It's irrevocable. Nothing can change that. And one of the things we've done with Priests for Life is exactly what Cardinal O'Connor always did. And he founded the Sisters of Life. The Sisters of Life know the common history we have through Cardinal O'Connor at the beginning of our respective ministries back in the early 90s. Cardinal O'Connor insisted that this was the number one issue of the day. Not the only issue. Nobody says anything is the only issue. But it is at the heart and core of every issue, is it not? Why is poverty an issue? Well, people are poor. Why is that a concern? Well, because they have a right to food and clothing and shelter. Why do they have a right to those things? Because they have a right to live. Unemployment is a concern because people have a right to make a living, and they have a right to make a living because they have a right to live. Terrorism is a concern because people should be protected from violence. Why? Because they have a right to live. Take any issue, ask why it's an issue in the first place, and you'll ultimately come back to the right to life. Abortion attacks the right to life directly, denies it directly, and therefore attacks the foundation of what is a house of many different interrelated issues. Who used that analogy? The United States Catholic bishops in their document, Living the Gospel of Life, which urges us to elect candidates who will protect and advance the defense of life rather than destroy it. Cardinal O'Connor, putting the abortion issue always as the first, preeminent, most important, most urgent, told me, and he said publicly, that he, a cardinal of the church, an archbishop of one of the key dioceses in the church, received pushback and blowback and complaints and obstacles from whom? Oh, sure, Planned Parenthood, Catholics for Choice, of course, but also from his brother bishops. From his brother bishops. This is a cardinal of the church. In the years when I was invited by now deceased Bishop John Yanta to come to Texas to start a new pro-life effort, one of the things we did was to have receptions at the meetings of the U.S. bishops that they have every 6 months as a conference. They have a meeting lasting approximately a week. And so we had a reception, and various bishops came, including the bishop who would then succeed Bishop Yanta in Amarillo, Texas. He's currently in his final months of his time as Bishop of Amarillo, Texas, and he's the one that's been causing so much trouble for our ministry and for the pro-life movement. Let me tell you what happened at that reception. We explained to the bishops our work. Most of them knew of it already. We encouraged them with the resources that we have to enable their dioceses and their parishes to address the abortion issue. We talked to them about the primary importance of this issue. And we had various lay people there at the gathering, including some of our supporters. One of our key supporters comes up to me at the end of the reception in tears because this Bishop Zurich had berated her, had just berated her about how bad it was, what we were doing, how bad it was. And we can't have priests talking about abortion all the time. She came to me crying at the end of that reception. And then he came up to me later on that same night. He looks at me, instead of saying, hey, thank you for this reception, thank you for encouraging the clergy and the dioceses and equipping them and providing them free of charge with all the material you provide to help us save lives. Instead of saying anything like that, he looked at me and said, this is bad. We can't have priests preaching about abortion all the time. And some enlightened Catholic commentators who are today talking about the action that the Vatican recently took against me claim from their exalted and comfortable seat of all-knowing insight into all things that are happening, they claim, oh, well, what happened to you has nothing to do with your pro-life work, nothing to do with abortion. Yeah, right. Yeah, just keep on talking. Yeah, that kind of ignorance, right. Brothers and sisters, why do some people have such a problem putting emphasis and priority on abortion? For all those who thank us and have continued to thank us, and I'm talking about church leaders and clergy, thanking us for keeping the issue front and center. We know the church has the right teaching on abortion. The question is, are we putting it front and center? Are we keeping it top of mind? Are we giving it the urgent priority it deserves? And by the way, the urgent priority it deserves is affirmed by the bishops. Most of them voted last November that this is the preeminent issue, and their pastoral plan for pro-life activities says that it's the preeminent issue. But that's all on paper. We need the reality to take place, and that's why people support our ministry. But why do some people resist that? Well, it's not hard to understand. We can talk about feeding the poor. You see the starving children, the envelopes that come to you, donate to the starving children, save their lives. And we can do that. And we can put a priority emphasis on that. We don't have those starving children in our living room, in our kitchen, begging at the front door. But when it comes to abortion, and we look at the pictures and the videos and we see that these are children also at risk of death, we do have it right at our front door. We do have it in our living room. We have people all around us who are pregnant, thinking about abortion, have had abortions, have perhaps asked our advice about abortion. In other words, it hits too close to home. And this is why so many people don't even want to think or talk about this issue. It's not that they're pro-abortion. It's that it hurts. It's not that they have the wrong idea. It's that they feel the pain. It's just too uncomfortable. It's too real. It's too present. And also, we have friends, and we have people maybe who have some authority over us in our employment or in our church, in politics. We have friends and allies who are pro-abortion. That's why many of the clergy don't want to speak about this, because they don't want to offend their Democrat friends who are helping them in other ways, but who are advocates of abortion, and they would be deeply angered, deeply offended, deeply alienated if we said a bad word about abortion. That's part of what's going on here, part of what's going on. But for people to pretend that this is not the issue, well, you keep pretending. Keep pretending. You just look like fools. And as for the rest of us, it is time today, January 4th, 2023. It is time tomorrow, January 5th, 2023. And every day for the rest of our lives, to sound this alarm so loud, so constant, so persistently, that the number one thing that should be burdening us every day is the killing of these babies by abortion. This is our number one priority, brothers and sisters. And together we can end this slaughter. We'll be gathering together for the national prayer service that I'll be leading in Washington, D.C. on Friday, January 20th, the morning of the March for Life. I want to renew my invitation to you to join me and religious leaders from all different denominations in focusing in on this, recommitting ourselves to this publicly, and praying for the end of abortion. Well, I have much more to say, but I just wanted to give you these thoughts this morning as we continue on this greatest human rights issue of our day, this great campaign on behalf of life. Thank you for your involvement in it. And onward we go